Thank you, Mr. Chima, for your seminar talking about, greatest gift possible, greatest gift that anyone can ever give, of course. I want to speak on something as an extension of that. And I've titled the sermon for today, The Love of God and the God of Love. They can almost be interchanged. The love of God and the God of love. So God is a God of love. And we want to look at the love of this God that is a God of love. And I'll start with a story. And maybe some of us have heard this before. Consider ourselves in a courtroom. Just think of life as a courtroom. There are two people who have been accused of a crime. And they are in a court of law. And their fate needs to be decided in that court of law. The penalty for their crime, for one of them, the penalty is a painful, agonizing, terrible death. A very painful, agonizing, terrible death. That's the penalty for the sin of one of them, or the penalty for the crime that one of them has committed. The other one's penalty is not death, unfortunately. It's actually something a bit worse than death. And people may think, what is worse than death? I remember reading stories of the Westerns in the early colonization time when they were developing America. And the homesteaders who live in developed cities in the East will move to what they call the West. And they will buy tracts of land and they'll start planting there. And there were Native Americans, these Native Americans, Apaches, maybe the Sioux, the Cheyennes, and the Waco Indians who live there. And those ones will come and they will attack their homes. And the men will arm 12-year-old boys, 11-year-old boys, and they'll give them guns, and they'll teach them to fight. And they'll have the women who can fight also, who learn how to shoot guns to do so. And they'll have one woman or one of the older sisters to stay in a cellar with the rest of the children. And they'll tell them, if you hear no more gunshots upstairs, they will give the woman a single gun, and they will give her a knife. All the children that are under 10, they will tell the woman, slit their throats. And then the remaining bullet that is left in the gun, shoot yourself in the head. The men fighting also are taught, and the children are taught, the 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 11-year-olds are taught, that when you are shooting and you are shooting guns, have one spare gun, a single action coat ready, always by your side. And if you find that all the bullets are gone, and you know that you cannot face these enemies coming, because they use tomahawks, they use arrows, they use knives, keep one bullet left and put it in your head. And don't try and shoot yourself like this. Either you open your mouth and pull the trigger, or you put it in your temple directly and shoot. They used to recommend open your mouth. If you try to do like this, you may be scared. By the time you are raising the bullet, you may turn your hand, may jack, and you just hit the side of the head. The person is going to be unconscious, but it's not dead. And when he's awake, he will be wishing for the face worse than dead. That you were wishing he was dead. Because what the Indians will do with those people who survive, if you read some of their accounts, you'll be shocked. So the other criminal in this court case we're talking about is not facing a painful and terrible death, but is actually facing an extremely long time in a place that he will also face terrible pain. His pain will be there for a long, long, long time, and he will be suffering and be tortured, but he's not going to be killed. It's like life in torment. Life in prison may be easy to describe, but this is life in torment. He's going to be in pain, he's going to be suffering, and that's his own fate. So these two accused are in this court, and there are judges. Okay? And the judges are waiting, to listen to the case. And there's, of course, a defending or a defender, a lawyer that is standing to defend the accused. Okay? Incidentally, there is no prosecuting lawyer. One of the accused said he doesn't need a defender. I don't need a lawyer to defend me. I am very good at the law. I know a lot about the law. In fact, I can consider myself, having studied the law, I'm an expert in the law. So I don't need a lawyer. I will be my own lawyer. This accused is not even there denying his guilt. He's not there. He's pleading, I'm not guilty. He actually admits that I am guilty. He admitted his guilt. The reason he's standing trial and the reason he's refusing a defendant is to be able to prove beyond every reasonable doubt that this other co-accuser is as guilty as me and he should get the same penalty as I'm getting. A terrible punishment, and he should not be set free. That's his job. He's not there to defend himself. He's there to actually prove that the other co-conspirator or co-criminal is as guilty as himself. The other criminal on his part is willing to take any number of defendants, any number of lawyers. And so he's happy to take the lawyer who is advocating for him. And he is someone who is proving, I'm not guilty. Well, technically, really, I didn't even know about it, you know. This guy deceived me. He coerced me. He tricked me. He calls this other accused his enemy. He's realized that this is my enemy. He's no longer my friend. He thought he was a friend before. When he was now faced, he's pleading not guilty, saying he was influenced and confused by his friend. And then, of course, imagine that all of us are audiences in the room in that court case. So let's look at the players and give them names in this court case. The chief accused, and the one who is standing there to accuse the other person of being as guilty as himself and deserving of the full punishment of the law, is Satan the devil, obviously. He's the second, is the main accuser. And then the other accomplice is myself and yourself. We're the other criminal in that court case. Satan is not proving that he's not guilty. He accepts that he's guilty. And he's already ready to accept everything that will happen to him. We will often plead not guilty. Well, really, I didn't really know about it. You know, I have really no choice. You know, what could I do? You have to understand that, you know, this was at stake. Actually, I didn't even see it that way. And in fact, I didn't even know. But you know, I'm just a human being now. You know, I was pushed to the wall. We have so many, you know, the devil made me do it. We are saying this guy is a cause. Really, I mean, you have to understand, you know, we don't really have a choice. We're there. The judge. Who's the judge? God is the judge. He's the one sitting there to pass judgment. And of course, the one who is the defendant, the one who is the lawyer, advocating for the second accused person, for you and I, is of course Jesus Christ. Okay? Let's look at a couple of scriptures quickly. Look at Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 23. It says, to the General Assembly and the Church of the Firstborn, who are registered in heaven, to God, the judge of all. So we know he is the judge. To the spirits of just men made perfect. Verse 24 says, to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and the blood of sprinkling that speaks better things than that of Abel. Quickly turn forward a little bit to 1 John chapter 2, verse 1. 1 John chapter 2, verse 1. My little children, these things I write to you, so that you may not sin. And if anyone sins, we have a defendant, a lawyer, an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm saying this so that we know I'm not just bringing up this scenario. Now, incidentally, while I say we are there like audiences, but frankly, all of us are also the second accused. We are also the second accused. The difference is that the judgment is not going to be like, okay, all of these people together, they're all accused. So let's look at the cases. Whatever decision is made, one judgment fits everybody else. Each person is going to be judged separately. It's not one judgment fits all. Each of us will be judged separately. That means they have to examine the cases against each person. Evidences will have to be looked at. And the evidences will be examined and will be tabled, and then judgments or decisions will be made. So they are investigators. People who go out to gather evidences. And know who the investigators are in this case. Actually, we are as well. See, we are the ones gathering evidence that's going to be used in our own case. And we're the one gathering the evidence, and we're the one keeping the evidence, and we're the one that's storing them. In terms of the types of judgment that will be given to us, there are two types of judgment we're looking at. The first type of judgment, in the Bible you see two words used to describe judgment. The first one is called crisis, from where the word crisis, or English word crisis, comes from. Let's look at where that is used. Matthew chapter 5 verse 21. In Matthew 5, 21 and 22, the word judgment there is the word crisis. And it's talking about a condemnation, when you condemn and you sentence. It's talking about an accusation, when someone is accused and already convicted and then condemned and then sentenced. That's Matthew 5, 21, 22. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be in danger of the judgment. So he's saying, if someone has been found to be guilty of this, person is going to be condemned, it's going to be accused, it's going to be sentenced. That's one of the judgments. So a situation where we're talking about judging here is where individuals are going to be sentenced, or they're going to be condemned, they're going to be accused or be guilty and sentenced. I said to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a reason or a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. The word judgment used there is that word crisis. The second word used is krima. And that word krima is talking about a process of evaluation, an examination that takes time to be able to decide whether this person is actually guilty or not, and should therefore be in crisis, that is, condemned or judged. So two types of judgment used in the Bible that way. One that is a direct condemnation, and the other one that is an examination and a process of evaluation. Let's look at a few scriptures for that. Look at Matthew chapter 7, verse 2, since we're in Matthew. Matthew chapter 7, verse 2. It says, for with what judgment you judge. It's saying with the degree of evaluation, or the way we will evaluate and sort of like make decisions on people, same will be made unto us. So here it's talking about a measurement, a distance, something that takes a process of time. For the judgment you judge, you will be judged. And the measure you measure, it will be used back unto you. Another scripture that actually also used that word, krima, is in John chapter 9, verse 39. John chapter 9, verse 39. When Jesus said, for judgments I have come into this world. Which means I came into this world not to condemn. That's what we're saying here. I'm not here to condemn. I'm not here to accuse. I'm not here to simply pass decisions on people's actions. So I'm here to actually evaluate. Look at the evidences over a period of time. Look at things and weigh the pros and cons, and then make a decision. So he said, for judgment I have come into this world, that those who do not see may see, and that those who see may be made blind. So he's saying he's here to, go through a process of evaluation, a process of, judgment. So right now, God is evaluating us, and that's kind of judgment that we're talking about here. As God is evaluating people, he sees evidence of their, wrongs, their faults, evidences that have been collected by these individuals, and in spite of all of this, God still offers forgiveness. He still says anyone who truly repents of those things and make a change, says he will still forgive them. He will wipe it out. That, frankly, is a great gift. that is the beginning of our understanding of what this day stands for. You see, on the Day of Atonement, we think about a time when we're going to be as one with God. And that is true. That is, we are afflicting ourselves, letting ourselves be in tune. Because the Bible says it is a humble and contrite heart that God wants. There are those who are proud and have pride, that God hates them and pushes them away from himself. So if we want to be in the same page, we want to be at one with God, we need to be humble. And when we're going through a period of fasting, the scripture describes it as humbling ourselves, which means we are putting ourselves in the same page as God, where we can be reconciled to him. We often think of that as the Day of Atonement, and that's true. The Day of Atonement goes beyond just us putting ourselves to be on the same page with God, afflicting our souls, recognizing our desire and our need and dependence on him for life. We do not eat for an entire day, and by the middle of the day, most people actually are very weak. The funniest thing is that when we are not consciously fasting, and people do not eat till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, many people will not even feel as weak or as hungry as they will feel on the day when they actually decided that, okay, you know what, I am actually on a fast. See, the mind itself lets us know that, okay, this is how it is. And it's at that period when we are deciding to fast that we feel the hunger pangs even more than we normally feel on those other days. And so it goes more than just, okay, we're trying to make ourselves humble and show that we depend on God, we need God for life. It actually is pointing to God's mercy. It's showing that God is a God of love and is displaying the love of God not just for us, but for all men. I need you to turn to the place where the commandments for atonement was given and how it should be carried out. Okay? It was given in Leviticus 23, but the instruction of what should be done on that day. Let's go through it. Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19. Sorry, Leviticus 16, not 19. Leviticus 16. And we will see that how this scripture here shows the love of God and that God is a God of love. Okay? One of the things we must start with and understand as we go through this, especially on the Day of Atonement, recognize that while we are the accused, and we're the ones gathering evidence by the way we do things, the way we think, the way we talk, the way we act and relate to one another, evidences that are going to be used against us. And the one who is actually accusing us and who is telling us we should be condemned is the devil himself. The judge has a character that he is partial towards us. He has a character that defines who he is. He's a judge that loves one. In the same Western novels I used to read, there's a town in Arizona, they call that town a town called Arizona. And as people were very prone to take matters in their own hands, they have to set up laws where they appoint people who are judges, and judges make decisions, and the decision is up to them entirely. And there's a judge that every criminal prays is never the one who is on the seat when they are being judged. They call him the hanging judge. You know why they call him the hanging judge? Even if a 10-year-old is brought before him for stealing, the judge will say, hang him. Because it will be an example to other 10-year-olds. When they see that, the 10-year-old, if we let him go, and you say, you know, he's a 10-year-old, he's just hungry, it's his first crime, let's pardon him. You know what? Other 10-year-olds think, well, if I do it, they'll pardon me. So, hang him. They call him the hanging judge. We have a God who is the judge, who is not having the character of the hanging judge. Because his nature is love. And he's partial to us. And he wants to set us free. So the entire court system, you can say, is already rigged in our favor. We also have an advocate, the lawyer who is arguing on our behalf. It's not just the lawyer who came directly from last week. He's a lawyer who is the son and intimate relationship with the judge. And because both of them are having love as a nature, they are already predisposed to set us free. That nature of their beings of love, and those who sin against them, and their desire and their propensity to forgive them, to pardon them, is displayed in this Day of Atonement. And not just for us as individuals or as part of the body of Christ, but for the entire world. The entire world. And I will quickly just go through for us, once again, what we already know. This Day of Atonement symbolism, and see how it shows the love of God and shows that God is a God of love. So that every time we keep the Day of Atonement, it should remind us that we serve a God who is a God of love. And that we are experiencing the love of God in our lives. Therefore, by extension, we need to be loving people and people who are very merciful. Every time we have a tendency to say, you know what? I can never forgive this person. Let's remember that we have experienced the love of God, His mercy and His forgiveness. And by extension, we should be showing that love of God to others as well, so that we can be people of love, who show mercy to those who wrong us. And that's part of the lesson of the Day of Atonement, that we serve a God who is a God of love, and that His love is active in our lives, and will be active in the lives of all who have ever lived. But there's something you will understand about that God, because He is a God of love, but He's also a God of justice. He's partial to us, but He's also one who will do what He needs to do, because He's also a God of justice. So let's start from verse 1. Leviticus 16. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they offered profane fire before the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron your brother not to come at just any time into the holy place, inside the veil, before the mercy seat which is on the ark, lest he die. For I'll appear in the cloud above the mercy seat. So let's look at the scenario. And I'm not sure most of us probably already know this. Take this place as and this is probably the average size from the size I've seen in Israel. This is about the size of the average temple, Jewish temple. They don't build it to take more than 60, 70 people, max. And in front of the temple, as it did it, maybe you can call this place here where it's the Holy of Holies, or where the mercy seat is. And it's separated by a curtain. That curtain is heavy. 3 feet thick, they said. Very, very heavy. A knife cannot, before you can put a knife through it to tear it down, it takes about, they say it takes about 150 priests to hang it. So in this portion that is separate from the rest of the brethren, they have service regularly in that open space, maybe where all of you are now. The priest can only enter the Holy of Holies, this portion of the temple, once a year. God is telling Moses, just after he killed his two sons. Again, you will see that a little bit. Just think about it. In the outer temple, there is what is called a menorah. That's lamp with 7 golden lampstands. There has to be light there. Fire must be burning in that candle 24/7. Symbolism of what it stands for is in Revelation 1 and 2. But they can only take that fire from the light that is from the embers of something that's at the altar, where they burn offerings to God. The sons of Aaron must have come in and they saw that the light was gone on the menorah. Probably smoking because maybe the oil had finished. For whatever reason, the light was gone on that lampstand. And it's supposed to always be light. And they needed to set fire to it. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, there were no smoking embers of fire on the altar. Perhaps the morning sacrifice had not been done. Or the evening sacrifice that they did, the smoking embers had quickly turned to ashes and they were done. They didn't want to wait until they do the morning sacrifice so that they can take fire from there and use to light the candle. They were eager to please. They were willing to quickly do something to rectify a situation that was not as was supposed to be. And they went somewhere else, brought fire. She needs fire. And they put it on the lampstand, and God struck them and killed them. Good intentions, but not according to knowledge. Remember the story of Uzzah as well, right? With David's happiness and joy, and 10,000 men to carry the Ark of the Covenant. So, after God killed Aaron's 2 sons, he was still in a very kind of, probably a little bit afraid. Now what for this God do? So and so. In fact, if you look at the accounts of where the sons were killed, God told Moses to tell him, don't cry for these your children. Don't be sad. They do what I said they should not do, and you should not be sad for them. It was after that incident. So probably let Aaron recognize again how God works. Which must mean that since they've been given the instructions about worshiping God, this is the first time God is now telling them how they should enter the mercy seat. And in that mercy seat, you have what is like the representation of God's throne in heaven. And you have the 2 cherubims that symbolizes the cherubims that constantly overshadow the mercy seat of God with their wings and shouting hallelujah, hallelujah. You have the Ark of the Covenant there. The Aaron, this is Aaron's board, that straw of that board will be there, of course. A copy of the manna that they ate in the wilderness will be there. And then, of course, they have the 10 Commandments tablets who are also there. And it's representing God's throne in heaven. And God is always with Israelites, isn't it? He's always with them. Never left them. It's not as if he has a tiny place to live. But as a representation of where he is and how he is in heaven, he had them build that place called the Holy of Holies. And inside there is where you have the mercy seat. And God was telling Aaron, I will not want you to come into this place anytime you like. I don't want you to do that. Only once during the Day of Atonement, you come into this place. The Jews tell us that on the day the priest is entering the Holy of Holies, they will tie a rope to the body of the priest. In case he has done something that he shouldn't have done, and he didn't do something, or he makes some mistake, while he's inside that place, God will kill him there. Nobody can go and get his body out. They have to drag him out. So this is instruction here. Thus Aaron shall come to the holy place. This is how he should come into this, my presence. With the blood of a young bull as a sin offering, and of a ram as a burnt offering. You see, God first of all gave a summary, and then he will go into detail later. Oftentimes when you read the Bible, you see it looks like tautology. There's first a summary of what needs to be done, and then he will start explaining the process that leads to the final summary that he gave. So he said, a young bull as a sin offering, which you will see is for Aaron himself. And then the other ram as a burnt offering, which is for the people. He shall put on the holy linen tunic, and the linen trousers on his body. He shall be girded with a linen sash, tied the sash like a belt around his waist. In fact, he should put on all the holy clothes before he comes into that mercy seat. And we know that all those dresses they're wearing is a function of our, in the spiritual sense, for these modern times, in terms of our relationship and our acts and our behaviors and the way we relate with one another. Those holy garments are like the righteous acts of the saints. Therefore, he shall wash his body in water and put them on. Again, it's someone who has been cleansed. We will use the word in the modern times. The significance is someone who has been immersed in water, who is baptized. The symbolism that God keeps putting in all the things he wants to do has started right from the Old Testament all till the New Testament. So he washes himself, prepares himself, physically purified, and then he comes before the throne of God. Then he shall take from the congregation of the children of Israel 2 kids of the goats as a sin offering, and then 1 ram as a burnt offering. See, there are 2 goats that are going to be sin offering, and then 1 ram as a burnt offering. Earlier I said 1 bull offering and a ram. And of course the bull offering is for Aaron's own sins. And then the ram is going to be for the people. But then there are still 2 goats again that are still going to be for sin offering. And Aaron shall offer the bull as a sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself as for his house. So here is, how does this show God's love, or that love of God? Obviously Aaron in various ways will have done things that he's not supposed to have done. And yet he needs to come before God's presence. God demonstrated his partiality, his mercy, and his willingness to forgive, even in spite of Aaron, by saying, take this animal, kill it, and use the blood to make atonement for yourself. Because without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin. So he made plans for Aaron to be free before him from the beginning. And then he said, continuing, he shall take the 2 goats, present them before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. And Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats. One lot for the Lord, and the other lot for the scapegoat, or the Azazel, another name for the devil. So there are 2 goats that they will get from the congregation. One of the goats will represent the Lord, and the other goat represents the devil. Okay? Look at the 2 accusers, in a sense, but not exactly. Okay? You see what will happen to the goat that represents the Lord, and what will happen to the goat that represents Azazel. We already know this, I'm just reminding us again. But the goat, okay, then an Aaron shall bring, verse 9, the goat on which the Lord's blood fell, and offer it as a sin offering. I will try to paraphrase some of this. If you read in Hebrews 9, actually Hebrews 7, 8, 9 is really good to understand the significance between the Old Testament and the New Testament, times of the work of Christ and his role as priests and high priest to us. Paul said Christ entered God's presence, which is the Holy of Holies, that represents his throne. He said once and for all, he took his own blood inside. Normally the physical priest will take the blood of a bull and also the blood of that offering for the people, carry it into that place and sprinkle it in urine to make atonement, that is to reconcile and say, look, a blood has already been shed for the sins of myself and for these people. So we have the privilege of coming before you. Normally that's what will happen. Paul said Christ went in once and for all with his own blood. That is the partiality of the advocate that we have and the judge. That it made allowance for us to be able to get back to them and reconcile so that we can escape death that we all deserve because of our sins. But we have to accept that sacrifice. We have to be able to lay claim to that offering that they are giving us. If we don't lay claim to it and accept it and follow the terms of that offering, we will face the same fate that the devil is advocating for us. So it's like giving us an out. We can be too proud or too stubborn to take that out, and in case we do, they will follow what the Lord requires. Death in the lake of fire. But if we are repentant and are willing to admit and say, yes, we were wrong, we were to blame, there is no excuse. I cannot justify. I cannot say, well, you know, this was at stake, and you know what, because of this issue here, this issue here, this issue here, that's why I really couldn't do this. If we are willing to say, you know what, we were wrong. I was just too weak. I was just not strong enough. Please, I'm so sorry. I am guilty as charged. That's all the judge requires. Once we say so, then the advocate will say, you know what? I actually have paid the penalty for all these people here. Why don't you take that penalty and apply it to them, and we get our freedom? So we can see that the symbolism of the Day of Atonement, God made allowance for the people that he said are stubborn, stiff-necked, rebellious. That's how God described the Jewish people, the children of Israel. They were stubborn, rebellious, and stiff-necked. And for God to bring them to himself so that he can be in the same place with them, at one with them, he made allowance for Aaron to actually do the necessary things that needs to be done. Shed some blood as atonement or payment for what their own sins have done. He says, Aaron shall bring the goat on which the Lord's blood fell and offer it as a sin offering. And that is the love of God, as we heard in the sermon yesterday. That God gave what was most valuable to him. Christ gave his very life. God sent his son to come and actually die for us. That demonstrates how much God loves us. And that shows the love that we actually are experiencing. That's why we can come before the throne of God. Hebrews 4:8 says we should have the boldness to come before the throne of God and have for help and mercy in times of need. That's why we can go down on our knees, or wherever we are, we sit down and bow our heads, we are before God's throne, and we can talk to him. It's because the allowance has been made, because we serve a God who is a loving God, and he has applied his love to us. Today reminds us he's like that. We should keep that in our mind and let it affect the way we also interact with everyone around us. God's love is not only for us, it actually covers all of mankind, as we'll see here. You see, God did not only make allowance for the sins of Aaron, He also made allowance to forgive the sins of the children of Israel and to make atonement for it. Look at verse 10. But the goat on which the Lord fell to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement upon it and to let it go as a scapegoat into the wilderness. If you just read this, it looks like, oh, so the one that is the scapegoat or the scapegoat is not going to be killed, but they're going to allow it to escape. It's like it's running away into the wilderness. Well, there's a reason, there's something there to the story, which we know. Verse 11 talks about taking the bull, taking the goats, that is for the Lord, and the ram offering, and killing it. And then he will take, look at verse 12. And he shall take a censer. That is after the priest has made atonement for himself, so that he's now clean before God. He now carries a censer, a big pot like this, full of burning coals of fire from the altar. And with his hands full of sweet incense that is beaten very, very fine and bring it inside the veil. So they will get these herbs that smell really nice, pour it and sprinkle it inside that burning coals. And as they are burning, they are releasing smoke that is smelling. And of course, they have ground it so fine. Revelation says that when we pray to God, our prayers go up to God as a sweet smelling incense. When Christ died and he told Martha and Mary, do not touch me, I have not gone to my Father and the Father, to my God and the God. What he did was to appear before his Father, go up to his Father, and he was actually praying and advocating for us. I have given my life for these people. I want you to accept it in their place so that they can have life. That is the love of God active on all human beings. And that is showing kind of God that we serve. It's also showing that he's a God of love. And then he put the incense on the fire before the Lord, that a cloud of incense may cover the mercy seat that is on the testimony lest he die. That's how our prayers appear before God. That's how when the advocate is talking and pleading on behalf of us before his Father to judge. Say, oh judge, you see this guy, see this knucklehead, this stubborn, bad-headed guy. You know, I warned him, I expect him, I talked to him, he understood everything. Can you imagine him still following this semi-bad-headed guy with two horns? And look at what they did. But you know, Father, look at him. He's weak. This one is a hardened criminal. See him, he's not even afraid. See him whooping his man, boasting. But this guy, please, Father, you know, he's even sorry. Look at him, see how he's crying. See him, you know, get liver and do what he's doing. And Christ is busy advocating and pleading before God. And we're not excusing anything. We are admitting what we have done. And Christ said, just look at him, he's broken. I'm sure if you set him free, he's going to go out, he's not going to do the same thing again. Pardon. Guess what? You know what the Bible says concerning the mercies of God? Yet we will learn that we can't take it for granted. His mercies does what? It endures forever. How short is your mercy? How short is your fuse? How expansive and how large is your love? And your forgiveness? Do you serve a God who has given so much for you? And are we willing to therefore do sin to others? Are we worshiping a God who is a God of love? And therefore displaying his love in the way we interact with one another and with ourselves. Those are some of the lessons we should take away from atonement. It's not just that we are fasting. It's not just that we are humbling ourselves so that we can ask God all the things we want. Of course, those are part of it. Because when we are at one with God, when we are reconciled to God, we can talk to God from our heart what we want. But let's recognize this is not about what we want. This is about what he wants. And this is about what he is doing for us. And by extension, how we appreciate what he has done, what he's doing, and how we extend that to others. Verse 15 talks about him killing the goat for the sin offering, that's for the people. That is symbolism of Christ's sacrifice for our sins. And then bring the blood inside the veil, which Hebrews 9 says Jesus Christ did with his own blood, so that there's no need for the priest to be killing animals every year again, and sprinkle it on the mercy seat. Now let's look at the other goat. Verse 21, jump to verse 21. The one that is the escape goat, the Azazel. You know, he got this goat also from the people. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat. Confess over it all the iniquities of the children of Israel, all their transgressions concerning all their sins, putting them on the head of the goat, and shall send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a suitable man. The Israelites are stubborn. They are the ones who God said they are my special children, my firstborn son. He said he will give men's life and ransom for them. He killed the firstborn of all the Egyptians to free them, did mighty miracles just for them. When they left Egypt and they crossed the Jordan River, despite their fear, when God tested them with the armies of Egypt coming, and still showing them how far he would go on their behalf, how much he loved them, opening the Red Sea, and they walked through dry land, and they got to the other side. Moses went up under 40 days to collect the 10 Commandments. Before he came down, what did they make Aaron do? I use the word make Aaron do, but they demanded. Aaron chose to accept. And you know what? They got idols. It is our God that brought us out of the land of Egypt. Even after Moses came back, got angry, broke the tablets and talked to them and made them drink water, got another set of tablets, explained to them the laws of God. They walked in the wilderness, let's go to where we're supposed to go. After some time, say we are hungry. What did they happen? So all the food we be eating in Egypt is not enough for us. You brought us and come and kill us, Abi. I beg, let's go back to Egypt though. Oh, are they going to fly or swim through the Red Sea? They did as if they've forgotten that the Red Sea opened and they actually went through. You want to come and kill us in this desert? The scripture says 10 times they grumbled at every opportunity against God instead of trusting God. But look at what God did. Repeatedly, he tried his best for them. In fact, I got the point, sincerely, that God said, you know what, Moses, I will do what I have to do with you alone. Move away from this people. Let me destroy them. It means God could get exasperated and upset. And Moses said, I beg, don't do it though. People will make fun of you. They will say you could not do what you promised. That's why you brought them and killed them. So please, show your mercy. Let's see your mercy. And God, of course, he relented. But guess what? Despite the fact that he relented, of course, God still punished them in various ways. Now, so these are stubborn people who have constantly always things they are doing that are offending God. And God, on his own initiative, on the day of atonement, is showing them that all their sins, because, see, when a sin is forgiven, say by killing the animal, the ram, and the other goats, he is fulfilling the requirement of the law that the wages of sin is death. Someone has to die. And without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin. So they kill the ram and kill the other goat that represents the Lord, which is like the Bible says in John, Jesus Christ, who is our Passover. 1 Corinthians 5, 11, when Paul was talking about, let us keep this feast, because Christ, our Passover, has been killed for us. So, what God now did was that, okay, we've taken away all their sins. But you know, for sins there are consequences. Okay? There are consequences. Forgiveness does not mean the consequences are taken away. I used to remember growing up, and we'll do something, and my dad would call you, Darryl, come here. So, you are told to iron my clothes, and you burnt my trouser. Did I not tell you before that? What are you doing? What were you thinking? Perhaps I was ironing and I was reading like this. That used to be my problem. Did I not want you not to do that? And if you want to read, you know how I love, in fact, I remember many of those times. You know I'm the one who used to buy books for you. I know you love reading, and that is good. That's why you can watch TV from anywhere and I don't disturb you. When I send your brother and your sister however to go and sleep, do I send you to go and sleep? And I told you, if you want to read, go and sit down and read. Finish your work, okay? And I've said, in fact, that's why I'll be agreeing with my father. Yes, sir. You are correct, sir. It's true. I should not even be reading and be ironing. You are correct, sir. I don't know. I'm sorry, sir. I hate so you should not be reading like, yes, I will not do so again. When they are finished, okay, now, turn your bomb out. After all the talk, I thought, okay, it's like, you understand that it's not like, yes, sir. Seriously, it's not something that should be done. And I've agreed with him. In fact, I was, even sometime before he finished saying, he was the news, I would complete it. I said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And then when he finished, we are on the floor. It was still beat me strongly. It's like, what is all of this one now? Because forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean the consequences is taken away. That's why even after they had sacrificed animals to make atonement for the people, in fact, part of what God said was that He said that other goats will be an atonement for the people. Okay. 22 says, the goat shall bear on itself all their iniquities to an uninhabited land, and shall release the goats in the wilderness. So the punishment or the consequences of all the sins of those people, after having killed and fulfilled the requirement of the law, by making sacrifice to atone for their sins, the extent of God's love for the Israelites, so that He can totally take away the consequence for their sins, was shown when He said, confess the sins of all these people on these goats, poor goats. Take it away into the wilderness. That's why they call it the escape goat. The one that escaped being killed, so to say. But it's a face worse than death, is it not? Take it away to the wilderness where it cannot come back. You know the parallel for us, of course, right? Because as soon as Christ comes, you know when it's coming, the trumpet shall sound. Scenario. Trumpet shall sound. Bam, bam, like you may have watched or heard in some books. What people erroneously refer to as rapture. People will be disappearing. The 1 Thessalonians 4:17. The dead in Christ will rise first. And those who are alive, Paul said actually we who are alive, because God will be alive, we will no more precede those who are dead. And they will all rise up, he said, to meet the Lord in the air. 1 Corinthians 15, 53 talks about, in the twinkling of an eye, at the sound of the trumpet, we shall all be what? We shall be changed. And this mortal must put on immortality. Incorruptible to put on incorruptible. Yeah, correct. Corruptible. And they will all rise up to go and meet God in the air. Right? So, Christians, those who have God's Spirit in them and have been faithful enough to trust God and live the life that God found worthy, will have been changed. So the people who will be on earth, especially when Christ comes down, stands on the Mount of Olives, as we read in Zechariah 16, 8, 9, 10, they will come to face the world that is ready to fight Christ. And then there is a battle of Armageddon. And many people, their flesh will rot in their bones, and the Bible says, maggots will come out of their eyes. And after that battle, there will still be people who will be alive. Isn't it? Jesus is not going to come after the battle of Armageddon and destroy the whole world. No, He's going to come, deal with those who are opposing Him, because He's coming with a rod of iron, and everybody has seen that Jesus Christ is now here. He's establishing His kingdom on earth. What is the first thing Christ will do? Revelation 20. It's part of the game showing the love of God and God's love. Revelation 20. And as you read this, think of this, what we just read in Leviticus. Sorry, I'm talking about something as if it's not in don't know, but again, maybe some are just hearing it. I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the keys of the bottomless pit and with a great chain in his hand. He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years were finished. See, Christ had come, and the first, He had done all the battle. People who are going to be killed are killed. Those who are alive, the billions who will still be alive, will now be in a world where Christ has established His supremacy. Okay, not the time I came as a gentle baby and you killed me. I'm coming as a ruling king right now. And He has shown them that He is the Messiah. He's destroyed the armies of Europe, and He's destroyed the armies of the Islamic Caliphate, king of the north and the king of the south. And everybody recognizes there's a new, sheriff in town. Not the one from England. Now these are all people who have turned against God. They are all people who have worshipped the beast and his image. They believe the Antichrist, the false prophet. They are people who are happy and joyous when the two witnesses were killed and their body was televised over the internet for 3 days. scripture says. There are people who have rejoiced at seeing God's children being killed. There are people who have said, hallelujah, all these enemies of God have been killed when they are killing God's people. There are people who do not want to know the testimonies of Jesus Christ, but they survived the tribulation era. So they were still sinners, right? Christ has died for them. But these people, of God's own will, He decided to forgive all their sins. But the punishment, the consequences, should have been on their heads still. So He put it on the devil. As we read the symbolism in Leviticus 16, all the sins of those who survive, the consequences for all their sins will be on the devil. And the symbolism that we saw when it says someone, a suitable man, will take that other second goat and take him into the wilderness, where he cannot come back to meet to the congregation. Is symbolism of what we are reading in that Revelation 20. And the sins of the world will put on Satan, who deceived the whole world, and they will put it on his head and they will bind him for 1,000 years. And for 1,000 years, people who have been stubborn and rejected God, it's like they're starting with a clean slate. What could be more merciful? What could show more love than that? A judge that just forgives sins, even on his own. He took steps to get all the evidence. He took steps to destroy the evidence. He took steps to say, okay, you know what? I declare you guilty. And now I'm going to give you a clean slate. Start afresh. Nothing could show more love than that. That's what has been applied to us. That's part of what we should take away from atonement. That's showing that God loves us so much. By extension, we serve a God who is a God of love. And if His Spirit is in us or with us, we should exemplify it in the way we relate to others. We should exemplify it in the way we interact with others. Because we're either going to be condemned. You see, as I read that Matthew 5, 21, 22, 23, if you murder, or you're angry with your brother or your sister for no cause, or you let the sun go down your anger, or you say to your brother, you fool, say you shall be condemned, judged. Okay, guilty as charged. Okay, throw him where you're going to throw him. Let him suffer a face that is as good as death. Or we have been evaluated, and based on how we relate and interact and act on the knowledge that we have a God who is a merciful, loving God, and we are extending that same mercy and love to one another, then God is going to do what? He's also going to say, okay, you know what? I've looked at this person, you know what? He has this ups and downs, he does this, but you know what? Don't worry about it. My son has taken care of that. Penalty has been paid. The fine has been paid for. You're a free guy. Go. People used to say that the reason why we often do what we do is because we can't help it. Well, that's not true. The reason is because we choose to put our needs, our desires ahead of God. That's why. And of course we are influenced, but we still have to take responsibilities for what we have done. Because that's part of what God's cardinal purpose is, to give us that power of choice. And it is our accepting and understanding our role and our culpability that determines whether the application of that sacrifice and that grace can be applied to us. So as we read here that the devil was bound and taken away from the people so that it doesn't deceive nations again, showing God's mercy extending to all mankind. All mankind. You know, by this time, Revelation 5:10 will have been actualized in the lives of those who have been changed. And, you know, it says He has made us a kingdom of kings and priests, and we shall reign with Him on the earth. That will have been the fate of those who are either faithful to God and are slept, or are still alive when the time comes, when the trumpet shall sound. People say two things about that you can count on. There are two things you can count on in this life. One, death. Second one, taxes. In Nigeria, not entirely so, but generally in developed countries, coming so now in some. If you owe the government taxes, and you die without paying your taxes, you know they're not going to forgive that tax. They'll take it out of your property. They will sell your property, or they'll take it out of anything that you have. They don't forgive taxes. And in fact, 50 years' time, when they find out that there's something there, they'll still take it out. Unless you have nothing to take, that's when it's gone. Now, you can count that the government is going to take away tax, word of death. You can put money aside to pay your taxes. Can anybody plan to put money aside so that they will not die? The more money I have, the longer I can keep away there. You can count on the fact that you will die one day. I read an account, somebody was saying that there is no seniority or junior, at least technically in this life. He said, you may be taller than me, and maybe you can reach something on top faster. Say, but if there's something on the ground that I want to pick, who can pick it faster? Say it's a shorter person. Say the driver who is driving the vehicle, when it's getting hot and they put on the AC, who will the AC touch first? Is it the driver or the boss at the back? They will touch the driver first, even though it's just the driver. Somebody can get married today. Another person get married in 5 years. You won't get married 5 years and have a baby before you will go married 5 years before. Isn't it? Say somebody can finish school and do NYSC and be looking for a job for 10 years. And somebody can finish school today and the next week he gets a job. Says there is really technically no seniority. Death is also like that. It doesn't say because you are older, I'll take you first. It doesn't say because you are stronger, I'll take you last. It takes anyone at their own time. You can count on the fact that everybody is going to die at one point or the other. When we want to think about the love of God and how much He's showing mercy to us, we should also be thinking about the day of atonement. It's not just a time to fast, to humble ourselves or to show how much we really depend on God. One of the cardinal lessons of atonement is that if we are so weak without physical food, how much more without spiritual food? How much more without those things that are supposed to build us as a body of Christ, as a child of God? Fellowship with one another, as Paul put it in Hebrews 10:24. Studying the Word of God, let the Word of God dwell in you in all its richness. Praying continuously, as it says in 1 Thessalonians 5:21. Rejoicing always. And of course, meditating on the Word of God. If we don't do all those things that build us as a spiritual entity, some people are dead people walking. If eating for 24 hours makes us weak, how weak do we think we get? If we have not studied our Bible, meditated on His Word, pray to God, maybe fellowship for a number of months. We may think we're still walking around. Spiritually, we are weaker than we can ever be. Yes, those are things that Atonement teaches us, that at least we are putting ourselves in a situation where we can be at one with God. But it's more pointing to something greater, that God loves us. And His love is applicable in our lives, evident in our lives, and of course it's extending to all of mankind, and by extension we should learn to reflect that as we interact with one another. Tell a little bit stories, just to end this. The story is told of a young lady who was raised by a single mother who sacrificed a lot for this child. But things were hard, things were difficult. It's like in that movie, The Queen of Catway we read, the single mother who was raising her kids, and her oldest daughter, the one who watched at camp, the Queen of Catway. And the older daughter kept thinking, we suffer a lot. Go and buy, the mother will go and collect decaying bananas, or plantain, that nobody will take. She will take it and see if you can get someone to sell it, to buy it, and then pay the man back. And sells her children to go and sell corn. And the oldest daughter was just like, this woman, what's all this life, this kind of stuff. So, and of course, she had an Okada boyfriend, and they looked at the Okada guy. Came one time, I was flashing money, and the mother did not want to collect it. She said she's too proud to collect this money, and things like that. Eventually, of course, you know what happened. Anyway, so this lady was like that. She wasn't happy with the life she thought she was living with her mother. It's a life of drudgery. And so one day, she was old enough, had a boyfriend, and she eloped with her boyfriend. Did not even tell the mother. She just disappeared. And the mother was crying, devastated. Where is my daughter? Every night she kept hoping the daughter would come back. She was getting to the point where she was becoming too depressed. And the pastor called her. He said, come. Can you do me a favor? Maybe this may help. Because you don't even know where your daughter disappeared to. Say, what is it? Anything that will bring my daughter back. Say, okay. Do you have a good picture of yourself? Say, yes. Okay. Can you make copies of that picture? Make as many copies as you think you can afford to make. The woman went and came back and got lots of pictures, the same picture. And I said, okay, I need you to write on this picture with a bold marker at the bottom of the copy. Please come back. Now, it's not the daughter's picture. It is her picture. I said, please come back, write in that picture. Now say, give it to as many people as you can who are willing to help you. And as they go around, let them paste it on the wall, throw it into buses, give it to people. People who are traveling, give it to them. At the park, let them hand it to people all over the city. Let them distribute it as well. If it's finished, make more copies, do the same thing, distribute it around. It took a couple of months. According to the story, the daughter saw a picture on a pole. And it looked a little bit familiar. This face looks familiar. And she went close. And she looked, by that time, of course, the guy she had absconded with had abandoned her. She was busy struggling and, it was a tough time, but she was too proud to go back home. And she looked at the picture, and God knows she looked at the picture. This is my mother's picture. And she saw the message there. Come back. She knew immediately. Mommy is looking for me. She misses me. And all her reluctance, and all her pride, had been willing to go home, everything just died down there. That she loved me enough. She still cares me. She's not angry with me for running away. She went back home that night, took whatever she had to go, and she went home. When she got home, it was late. In the evening, like 10 something, according to the story. The door was open, it wasn't locked. The mother was sleeping. She walked in, locked the door. Woke up Mama. Mama, when I saw her, you came back, just gave her a big hug. She was so happy that she came back. They cried and talked, and I said, oh, I'm so glad. I said, but Mama, why did you unlock the door? Why are you sleeping with the door unlocked? You know how dangerous the environment is. She said, my daughter, since the night you left, I have never slept by locking this door. I don't want you to come back and find the door locked. I wanted to make it easy for you to come back. So that if you come back, and I'm not around, or you come back and it's in the middle of the night, and you find the door locked, maybe too ashamed or too afraid or too whatever to come, I want you to be able to know, I want you to know that you are always welcome here. And that's why I've never locked this door since you left. What tells of love more than that? Reminds us of the story of the prodigal son, isn't it? That the scripture says the father saw him from afar and he ran to meet him. Oh, that Oludare Akinbo boy is coming. Hey, come, my servant, come. Look at that boy there. That person I've seen that people. What does it look like? Master, it's your son. Hey, please go and lock that gate. Yeah, you got it. Didn't do that. He quickly ran down to go and meet him at home. That is God that we serve. That's what the Atonement tells us. Human beings did not choose to say, let's follow God. We did not choose to say we are going to worship God. We didn't say we are going to run after God. Scripture says God demonstrated His love. How? At the right time. His own choosing. Christ died for them. While we were still sinners, Christ died for them. See, He's proactive in His love. That is the love of God. And we serve a God who loves us. And we must recognize that. And that's one of the greatest, to me, one of the greatest lessons of atonement. One of the greatest lessons of atonement. The Bible says that if you say you love God, whom you do not see, and you don't love your brother that you see, what did He say? We're just liars. When we keep atonement, for us to truly be be at one with God. We need to ask ourselves and look around us. Who are those who maybe have offended me? Who are those who I have in a cause, who are accusing of some crime? And I'm already passing judgment on them, or I'm evaluating them and judging them harshly. What allowance have I made? What can I do to forgive their sins, remove the consequences, and reconcile them to Him? Because that's what God did for us in Atonement. That's what He is doing and going to do for the world on the actual symbolic day of Atonement after Christ's return and the battle of Armageddon. That shows God's love and the love of God. In Greek mythology, they talk about Zeus, there's Apollos, there is Hades, there's Hercules, all these so-called gods. There is a goddess that is called Aurora. It's called Aurora. It's called the goddess of dawn. Aurora. In the northern hemisphere, North Pole, towards the evening, around this period, you will see these lights dancing in the sky. Call it the Aurora Borealis, northern lights. Anyway, if you like, space, cosmology, and stuff like that, something like that. Maybe. So Aurora was a goddess in Greek mythology that's a goddess of early morning dawn. Okay? Very pretty, very lovely. She now fell in love with a human being, Tithonus. She fell in love with Tithonus. And this, a goddess is supposed to be able to live forever. It's not a human being. She now fell in love with a mortal man, Tithonus, a young, handsome guy. And Aurora said, look, I love this guy. I want you to do something to help me. Because, this guy who lives probably 70 years and is dead. Please, I'm a goddess. And this guy is mortal. How can you help me? So he went to Zeus, who is the father of all the gods, the greatest, gods, all father Zeus. And Zeus said, you're such a pretty, sweet little, Lord, goddess. And I want you happy. Seeing you happy makes me happy. So I will grant you anyways. Just tell me what you want me to do for this guy. That will make you happy. He said, I want you to give him immortality. Turn him into a god so that he doesn't die and he can live forever. And Zeus said, granted. Okay. Here's the cash. So Aurora and Tithonus started living together, husband and wife, loving each other. But guess what? Aurora never aged. She doesn't grow old. But Tithonus will grow older. Until he became an old man, but he will not die. He's going older every year, but he will not die. And she went back to Zeus. He's growing older. So when you ask for him to live forever, you didn't specify and say, I want him to live forever as a young, handsome man that I fell in love with. You know the story here? We ask God for things, right? God doesn't do that. He doesn't think about, okay, he's asking for this. But he didn't think of this and this and this and this. When God gives us gifts or He rewards us, His love covers even things we don't even think about. That's how God gives. He gives without recompense. He gives without taking back. He doesn't give. Sometimes when people say this word, this word of deliverance, for example, your forefathers, what were they worshiping? Is it not ancestors? Is it not all these our ancestors worshiping? Are they not worshiping the gods of ancestors? When you were born and you were given the name, did they use Orobo Reo? This is Obio, this is Salt, this is Oil. You know all those things, they are rituals. They are making covenants and pacts with all these gods and demons and things like that. Have those pacts been broken? They need to break and unbound all those covenants. They need to lose those covenants. You don't know whether your great-great-great-grandfather has made covenants on your behalf. Generations before you are born. And you are saying, I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God. And you are walking in the Spirit. You think you are walking in the Spirit. And yet, you are having problems in your life. Things are not happening. Unbroken curses are there. They need to be broken. Even at the age of 18, that didn't make sense to me. Because I remember when I first read about the Day of Atonement in the booklet, I think it was lesson number 31 or so, my Christmas course. I could see this shows a love, how much God loves us. And love is total, encompassing. He thinks of things people don't think of. My Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. He says, my plans for you are good plans, not to harm or to destroy, but to give you a hope and an expected end, the hope, the future we want. So people will say, and I've unbroken curses, unbound so and so. See, in my undergraduate days, when I was 17, 18, this Rebecca Bryan MD just was writing all this. That's when this deliverance concept was just coming out. You know, broken curses, vessel of honor, just like that. And I was like, excuse me, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Scripture says there is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ. And once you have been baptized as a child of God, it said, behold, the old things are passed away and all things are made new. And you are a new creature in Christ. So I am a child of God, and God says His love covers me, His grace covers me. And you are not telling me that something my father did, unless I specifically tell to obey God. I realized that my great-great-grandfather was worshipping Obatala or Shango. And he has made some pact that all the males in my generations, I dedicate them to you. So now that I have given my life to you, I want you to go and break that dedication you made to Obatala on my behalf. So because I did not remember that, or I did not know that, I will be walking around as a child of God, and God's blessing will not be on me. And I said to myself, it is like if my son tells me, hey, Daddy, I'm going to school. On the road to school, hey, there are all these boys who used to bully people. Okay? They used to throw stones at me. So, I want you to take your umbrella. When they are throwing the stone, because they throw stone, that's why I have this hook on my head. I have this hook on my head. So, as they are throwing stones, use the umbrella and block me. So that as I'm walking under you, you have umbrella, you have umbrella. So, and God is my protector. And I'm happy. Yes, my dad is following this. But I did not remember to tell Daddy that after I had passed somewhere, my back is exposed. They may throw things to my back. So put something and protect my back too. You know, some of them may even put some stones on the floor or some things on the floor. And I may step on it and I may slip and I may fall down. So let me check the floor to make sure everything is okay. I do not remember all the areas the attack may come. I only told God, okay, just protect my side. So God is following me, as my father is following me. And anybody want to come and from his side, hey, don't touch my son. Okay, I'm protecting him. Hey, don't touch my son. There's somebody coming from the back. Well, he did not say I should protect his back. He did not say I should protect his back. In fact, if I find out that people are hitting me at the back, and I said, Daddy, why are you not protecting my back? Well, you only say protect left and right. Okay, you know what, just go away. I'll keep turning myself and protect myself. As stubborn as I can be, I probably will do that. So, unlike Zeus, who answered Aurora's request in a way that created a problem, God's love goes beyond that. When He answers prayers and gives us requests to things we ask, He goes far beyond. That's what the Bible says. He's able to do exceedingly far and above anything we can ask or think or even imagine. And that is one of the reasons why Atonement shows His love and shows that, yes, He has extended that love to us. There was a story of a man who was also in prison. And the reason he was in prison was a friend of his actually was one who ratted him out. He was a politician, and he was working with a friend in the same office. And his friend is a Christian, okay? He's a Christian. And he knows he's a Christian, and he will not steal. And so what happened was he now said, well, me, I need money. When I steal this money and I'm taking care of myself, when you're in trouble, I will help you out. And so he stole money. And he was thrown into prison because his friend was the one who reported him for stealing money. How many of us would do that? And the man said, you know what I want to tell you is this. If you say you have a friend as a Christian, I think a Christian will not betray you. You will not say you are deceiving yourself. You know, sometimes we are like that with God. Oh, God loves us. He cares about us. He's looking out for us. It doesn't matter what we do. He cares about us. God's not like that. He's a God of justice. You know, the Bible says it is him who the Father loves. He does what? Chastises. You love a child, and your child is doing what they're not supposed to do. You better take the cane to that child behind. Oh, I love my child. Our child says, mommy loves me. Oh, daddy loves me. I can do whatever I like. Daddy just loves me too much. Doesn't like to see me cry. He doesn't want to see you cry, yes. But rather see you cry and be alive than see you not cry and to die a premature death. And so we cannot take God's mercy and His love for granted. He loves us. I'm ending. Just to end with a few more stories. To show how much God loves us and how His love is enduring. He's a God of love, and His love that shows to us and mankind is exemplified in the provisions He made for the atonement. One farmer was thinking and contemplating one time in his farm. Wow! See, I don't know whether we grow pumpkins around here in the south. Pumpkin is something that it's like a big tomatoes or like a big apple or pawpaw or something. It used to grow as big as this, orange in color. I haven't seen it live except abroad. I haven't seen it in Nigeria, but I've seen it abroad. I've seen it in the market there. But it grows on the ground. The pumpkin is big like this, and it grows on the ground. The leaves actually curl around things like yam leaves that curl around poles, but they grow on the ground. So the farmer was thinking that, sometimes I wonder about this God, the way He does His things. This is a heavy fruit. And He gave it a stem that is so weak that cannot even support it, that it didn't have to grow on the ground. And the stem is wrapping itself around other things. And then he looked up and saw the coconut tree. See the coconut tree? With a very strong something like this. And yet, see the small coconut that is there, that he is able to support. Why didn't He give this kind of strong stem to this pumpkin to be up there? The coconut can at least be something closer to the ground. As he was talking and thought all those things, as he was going, the coconut fell down and hit him on the head. Pow! The man was rubbing his head. And he said, I think I'm glad that it's a coconut that's on the tree and not the pumpkin. Because if it's a pumpkin that landed on his head, you can imagine how it would be if a pumpkin falls on his head. Sometimes we need to recognize that whatever God chooses to do in our lives is the best thing for us. Sometimes we question Him. We wonder why, what's He waiting for? He knows us. He knows what we need. And He knows what is good for us. And we need to learn to simply trust His judgment. And trust that He loves us so much. And His love is total. I will end with another final story. Another one. couple of them. Let me just use one. There is a man who had a quarrel with his son. The quarrel was so bad, the son walked away from the house and left. Daddy, I hate you. I want to live my life. And he walked away. After a couple of years, the father was old and he missed the son. And he figured time should have dulled this fight. He just wants his son back. So he started trying to find where he could find the son. He went everywhere, talked to a friend, nobody knew where the son was. So he went to his pastor, and the pastor told him, let's go to a newspaper, advertise in the newspaper. And so he put an advert in the newspaper. Dear Paco, dear Paco, I miss you and I want to see you. Please meet me next Saturday in front of this newspaper. I'm sorry of all misunderstanding. Please come home. The next Saturday, there were 800 Pacos at the newspaper. 800 people who are here bearing Paco. have also quarreled with their parents and they walked away from their parents. What is keeping them away from coming? Pride, is it not? Why did they see the newspaper report before they responded? They also wanted to go, but they just wouldn't bring themselves to do so. The one who loves the most is the one who first seeks to reconcile. The one who loves the most is the one who first seeks to reconcile. In the quarrel between, we can't quarrel with God. Can an ant quarrel with a boot? That was Samuel Jackson in the Avengers. Actually, he asked a question and Loki answered him. He said, do we have a quarrel with you? And Loki said, can an ant quarrel with a boot? And then Samuel Jackson said, so you mean you want to step on us? So we can't quarrel with God. It's too far above us. But there was obviously a rift, isn't it? There is a kind of a misunderstanding that was our fault. And there was a chasm, a separation between us and God. And so you can call that a conflict. Who first took the step to reconcile? It was God. Because He's a God of love and He loves us so much. Mankind has strayed away from God. The depravity in this world, what people do in this world now, is amazing. And yet, Christ will come, and after establishing His kingdom, He could have destroyed all those people and started with just those who are His own. He could have destroyed all those people and continued His kingdom with the people who have proven themselves in this lifetime, isn't it? He could have. Couldn't He have done? Why does He need to worry about people who have repeatedly chosen to not accept? Guess what? 1,000-year reign, Feast of Tabernacles. After that 1,000 years of peace and prosperity and joy and no interaction from Satan, the scripture says He will release the devil for a little while again, isn't it? And the Bible said He will still take multitudes again. Many people will still choose to go with Him. And God will finally do what He used to do. And He destroy them. So in the court scenario, where you and I are the accused, the only thing that will stop us from walking away free is our stubbornness, our reluctance to simply plead guilty, be of a contrite heart, ask for God's mercy, not excuse, not justify. What choice do I have? I mean, what could I really do? I mean, I really waited, or I tried, or there was this issue, or there was that issue, or there was that issue, or that issue. Simply said, God, I was stupid. I was weak. I couldn't do what I should do. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I wasn't strong enough. I'm so sorry. Please, I deserve nothing but death, and I'm only asking for mercy. Our commitment to accept our own faults and to throw ourselves at His mercy is the only thing that will keep us away from being acquitted. Because the judge is partial to us, the advocate is in favor of us. Our accuser stands alone. He stands alone. Today, the day of atonement, as we observe this day, as we fast and afflict our souls, yes, let's tell God what we want, the things we want and desire. Okay? Let's pour our hearts to Him and ask Him for the kind of blessing, maybe solution, maybe deliverance, or whatever it is we want God to do for us. It's okay, let's ask. But above all, let's see ourselves for who we are. Like we read in that one of the songs, when David said, "Cleanse me from my hidden secret sins." Things only you know, and only I know. Things that we cannot even discuss with you. Sometimes we cannot even think about. Let's be open and honest to God. Ask for His help. Throw ourselves at His feet. And His love is big enough. And He loves us enough to actually forgive us and to cleanse us. Because even before we do anything, even the whole of mankind, God already has plans to cleanse them and to reconcile them to himself. Baba Shalom.